edition of the NHL season, the 25 NHL season of the Soft Dump in the Corner podcast, presented by N6 Sports. As always, presented with my co-host, Mr. Luke Pendlebury. We'll get into the in-depth this the end of the season. What happened? What broke down? The heartbreak, the triumph, the defeat for myself and fellow Canadians, myself and fellow
Yeah,
Edmonton Oiler fans. But without further ado,
yeah,
let's bring in Mr. Luke Pendlebury. Give me your thoughts on what
yeah.
you saw in the absolute thrashing of the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, it was disappointing. Just the collapse. I felt like the last couple games, they just felt like they had lost all the gas in the tank, and you can just see the championship pedigree with the Florida Panthers. They knew what it took to get it done, and they just manhandled the Oilers the last two games, unfortunately. And it's too bad. And we chatted about this in the last episode where if you go 0-2 in your Stanley Cup runs, and that's a notification. How are you? You go 0-2 in the championships, it's going to be hard to dig out of that hole. It's just a lot deeper, right? So it's going to be hard for them. But at the end of the day, it's too bad. And you got to tip your hat to Florida. They knew what it took to get done, and they got it. And now they're at Elbow Room, 12 out of 10 blackout drunk, all of them, including Marshy's, looking like a beauty out there. But at the end of the day, yeah, disappointing, but you got to congratulate the Florida Panthers on an incredible season. So,
And just you pointed out the pedigree, something that they just bring the year after year structure that they've learned from Paul Maurice, just the ability to adapt to anything anybody can throw at them. They
yeah,
try to make sure that every game is played their way. When it comes to a series, they find ways to take over and adapt to what they're getting thrown at. And it's just one of those things that's so hard to defend, more so because of the fact that they're not just a one-way team. They can
yep,
they can hit you on the rush, they can hit you on a transition play, they
yeah,
can grind you down in a dumping chase and work you down structurally and cycle the puck. They play well defensively. Like, they do everything that you want to do. We've talked about that. But I think what really separates the Panthers, and we've talked about it, we know this going in, and we were hoping maybe the Oilers would do so and be able to raise that to that level, is just that, for lack of better terms, dog attitude. They
yeah,
don't have that dog. The Oilers just didn't
mm-hmm.
have that dog attitude, that I guess I hate to say it, but just that hate to lose attitude. Now, some of them did, most of them did. There were far too many, and I hate to bring this up, and I don't like to use the same word, but it's a tremendous word for it. But there are far too many passengers for the Oilers, and I think that did not help. Do I think even with a couple better players, the Oilers might have won? Not likely, to be very honest with you. Florida was just so damn good. But
Yeah.
I guess just give me your opinion on some of the top players. I guess what your thoughts were on McDavid and Draisaitl compared to even Barkov and let's go with Reinhart, for instance. I mean, top guys came in and performed, but like, talk to me about your opinion, because we kind of chatted about it, just on the importance of the middle six and the guys that aren't so per se sexy names. Give me your opinion on why the depth and then just, I guess, the overall Panthers were able to just single-handedly just demolish the Oilers.
Yeah, I know you make like a great point about this dog out attitude. These guys will do whatever it takes to win, and it showed that in this series. I thought Ekblad and Forsling did an incredible job of shutting down McDavid and Draisaitl. I think Forsling's a very underrated defenseman. He does everything very well. Not the flashiest of players, but his skill, his IQ, and the way he skates is top tier. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if they got him on waivers or it was, I forget where it was, but it was something very subtle. Maybe it was just in a trade package. He was just an extra piece, but just a
Forsling was waivers,
phenomenal
yeah.
hockey player. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with Aaron Ekblad. Obviously, you see in the parades, they're all about, yeah, we're all going to re-sign, but you can all re-sign depending on how greedy you are. If you're wanting to take a cut, if the salary cap is the room is there, it's hard. And as a Tampa fan, winning back-to-back cups, you want to make another run at it. Sure, they did. They got all the way to the finals and lost to Colorado, but trying to keep the same pieces in place, the core, the guys that can push you into those deep rounds, sometimes are very hard, especially if they're coming on expiring deals. When Tampa lost Coleman and Gord and Barkley, Goodrow, like those are the guys that help you get to that next step. And unfortunately, I just feel like that the depth for the Oilers struggled and they couldn't keep up with what Florida had to offer, and the top players outplayed the top players. And I thought Bobrovsky outplayed Skinner like massively. And I remember saying that like my X factors were the goaltenders, and Bob was out there and he stole games. Like he's just that good right now. And Florida's lucky to have a goaltender like that, because in a championship pedigree team, your back end is super important when it comes to winning championships.
No, 100%. You were absolutely right on the
Mm-hmm.
X factors when it comes to goaltending. I mean, I think it was easy to look at, but realistically, it was really the number one thing, in my opinion. Between that and just the depth of forwards, I really didn't like, and I said it for a little while going into summer last year in terms of what the Oilers were going to do to improve. They didn't take a direction of speed, which I thought was interesting because I really do believe when it comes to playmaking with the best in the world, especially the way that the speed of Mike McDavid and Draisaitl, I just think you needed to keep your group young and fresh and speedy.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't crazy about not signing one of Broberg or Holloway. I really
Yep.
wasn't. I also wasn't necessarily crazy about the idea of letting Cody Ceci walk as well, because you left the Oilers with 4 left-handed defensemen and not very much on right-handed in terms of a solidified D-man. It was more so question marks. You're
Mm-hmm.
basically waiver pickup in John Klingberg. Your trade piece 2 seasons ago of a 6-7 D-man, or at least a 5-6 D-man of Troy Stetcher, right? You don't have anybody else there that's basically playing a solidified space. The top pairing is always filled with Ekholm, or always played with Bouchard on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And that depth defenseman and that depth of the Oilers really killed them
Yep.
in the playoffs. But the goaltending as a whole, like, as you pointed out, I really do think that's the area that they're going to have to fix. Unfortunately, I don't know if there's a really make or break. Like, do you realistically go all in and try and go for a big dog? Because A, there's not too many out there that are just willing to be traded. And B, do you have the package that's going to be able to make that even happen in the second place, right? Like, there's way too much that you really need to, I guess, to say commit to if you're really going all in goalie wise,
Yep.
because your future is limited if you're going there too, because you have to be able to pay for players, right? So
Yep.
I don't know, that'll kind of lead into the free agency chat that we're gonna have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but just as a whole, like when you looked at the way that Florida played, do you think the league now is going to look at that and want to say, and by league, I'm sorry, I mean GM's perspective, team's perspective, owner's perspective. A lot of owners have say these days. Do you think that teams are going to now take that 2-3 year look of Florida and what they've been doing as a successful team and say, let's replicate that?
Mm-hmm.
So now what you look at is grinding bodies, good work ethic, strong nose to the ice, stick on the ice, play the right thing. All the kind of like the Don Cherry book of hockey player stat, like type of hockey players.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna maybe start to see that. And you maybe I'm wondering too if the league is gonna start to kind of slowly transition back away from the young speed, quick flash, skill, blah blah blah, to the, you know what, you when it comes to playoffs, you can take these other players,
Mm-hmm.
i.e. your Bennett's, right, and your Marchands, a few of the other guys on that team. Obviously, Barkov is a tremendous two-way player, but his defensive play is solid. You pointed out the defending
Mm-hmm.
side. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's crazy because you look at the free agency list of the year, and I think in previous years, everyone looks at like let's look at the top 10 board. Everyone just looks for skill, and the top 5 guys are maybe skill. Now, make a good point. Is it's the grittiness now that pushes your team to win a cup, and maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but if you look at the top 4 teams that were left in the Stanley Cup Finals, I thought everyone had pretty close to equal in skill. Like you could take out 3 or 4 players from each team and be like, these guys have it. These guys are super skilled. They get paid for what they do. But then you look at all the rosters and you look at the grittiness, and you're like, Florida stands out like a sore thumb. So now, when you look at this free agency list, why is Sam Bennett and why is Brad Marchand up so close to the top? Yes, they're skilled. The Sam Bennett had a tremendous year, won the Conn Smythe, but it's the grittiness that like they know now. Teams are like, I need these players. If we're at the cusp of winning, these are the guys I want on my team. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens if they don't re-sign with Florida. Like, goddamn, it's gonna be a bidding war to get those guys. And then I think both Marchand and Bennett are gonna get overpaid, but deserve to be for kind of what they bring to a team. And Marchand had a great finals. I think he 4 or 5 goals in the finals altogether. Like 37 years old, this guy was holy Christ, hitting the old L1 on Bouchard.
Marchand
So
was washing Ekholm's windows on the way by
oh yeah,
with his windmill as he was whipping by. But the other couple things too, though, and you make a good point there, is like cap space is going up to what, $7-something million
next
this
yep,
season.
yep,
Huge, right?
massive.
I think Florida's got upwards of $20 million in space. Now they got to sign, what is it? They got to sign Bennett. They got to probably sign maybe Ekblad or Marchand. Don't think they're going to be keeping all three. We'll see. With
Yeah.
Seth Jones there now, I don't forecast them spending the extra money on Ekblad, knowing that they have a solid top 4 defense core
Oh yeah.
without him. They can probably go shopping in UFAs. You got to think that a lot of UFAs are probably got to, have Florida pretty high in the destination board if they show interest in them as well,
Mm-hmm.
which is also another thing too now is you got to think that these guys are probably going to say, hey, okay, if we're willing to take a little bit of a cut, not saying the tax has anything to do with it. I'm talking about specifically team morale, because that's what we're talking about here is there's a bunch of guys that are leadership first, that are group first guys.
Yep.
Marchand came from the world where he never made more than Chara, and Bergeron never made more than Chara, and Pasternak never made more than Bergeron. And he grew up in that tier, and like you get those style of players in your dressing rooms, even if it's for 5 months, and obviously they won.
Yep.
Those small little tidbits, those small nuances, those little quirks and everything that you learn along the way from those style of players,
Mm-hmm.
they're so incredibly important to winning and success, because they just do things that just win, that
Yep.
help your team win. It's not just individual success, it's team success. They want everybody to win, but they hold each other accountable. So there's so much that goes into having those types of players in your lineup. They may not be the most sexiest player, they may not be 100-point players, they may not be, flashy, playing in high end market arenas and cities, if you will. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty and it comes down to playoffs, as they say, and then what's the big quote they keep saying is, we are expecting the series to go 7 every game, every series, and we're prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big difference going into that series when you're like, you know what, we don't care what you throw at us. If you get a couple games at us, we're giving it to the last whistle. We're giving it to the last buzzer. So that's tough to defend against, and that's what I
Yeah.
think it draws a lot of players in. That's why I think Marchand in the first place waived his no trade to say, hey, I can go there. I will absolutely go there. I'm sure there were one of only very few teams that were on his list, because
Mm-hmm.
that was a last minute deal that worked out. So I'm interested to see if they let Ekblad walk. We can carry this into UFA for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
even just discussing Ekblad as a whole, curious if they let him walk or not. I think they'd like to keep him. He was a number 1 draft pick, right?
Yep.
Correct.
Number 1 overall.
Number 1 draft pick of a team that necessarily wasn't that great during the time of him being picked. Played there his whole career, has been very successful. Eh, 2 cups, maybe time to say, hey, you played here, 12 some odd years or whatever, maybe even more. Apologies, I forget the year he was drafted. You won 2
14,
cups with us. Yeah, even
11
longer. Like,
years.
you've done your time, and you know what? Go get paid,
Go
right?
get
Like,
your
this is
money.
your year. There's a couple teams out there that have a few extra million, or maybe you can find a way to sneak in an extra 750K a year and get your 6-7 mil, like, or 6-7 years, excuse me, like, that adds up, right?
It
So
does, yeah.
we can talk about that in a minute, but yeah, anything else that you kind of wanted to say about Florida in particular?
That just sucks that now they're sitting on the same pedigree as my boys. Now they've done it. They went back to back. It's hard to do, I'll be honest with you. And this is their third cup appearance. They got blown out by Vegas in the first year, but obviously they figured out, learned what it takes to win. And not many teams in history. I think there's maybe about 8 or 9 that have gone back to back or more than back to back. So good on them. We'll see how they kind of progress the next year. But so they played a lot of games, especially the core that have been there for back to back. It's like playing another season on top of everybody else. I know what Tampa went through, and you could tell they're running out of gas. So good for them.
I'm just quickly looking up. So you made the good point of how many teams have really gone back to back in the NHL.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look up in the salary cap era, how many teams
In the
in the
salary cap era. Oh, Jesus, probably
salary
less.
cap era
It's probably like 5.
have
I'd
won
say
back-to-back
I'd say
cups.
5 or 6 then.
Because it was only the 16-17 Penguins, then the Cap, or excuse me, the Bolts,
Yep.
and
The
now the
Panthers.
Caps, right?
The 3. Yeah.
Yeah, Panthers, Tampa, and Pittsburgh.
In the salary. Wow.
So that's it.
3.
And that began in 2005. So since '05, there's only been 3 teams that have ever won back-to-back.
Crazy.
And there's been 19 teams that have done it
In history?
in history.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
very interesting. To top it off, though, just super quick, UFA's on the team: Marchand, Thomas Nosek, Bennett, Nico Sturm, Mackie Samoskevich is a RFA that he'll get signed. Magna, Nate Schmidt, Aaron Ekblad, Vitek Vanacek, the goalie. They might have a backup goalie that comes through. Probably not too much roster changeover, to be honest. There might be a few. My apologies. There might be a few small changeovers, but I think that roster stays put, and they're probably going to have another go at that one there. Maybe moving on to Edmonton here, though. UFAs as well. Corey Perry, Jeff Skinner, Connor Brown, Kasperi Kapanen. They list Trent Frederick, but it's said that he's got a
He
deal
locked
done at
in,
8
right?
years. Yeah, they said that that's pretty well done, but that's still not done. John Klingberg, UFA, Evan Bouchard, the RFA. That one's that's a tricky one. Potential, obviously, of the offer sheet, of course. As we know what happened last year with the Oilers, would that not be something if they got offer sheeted in back-to-back summers?
Yeah, that'd be pretty
Wouldn't like
crazy.
to see it. Wouldn't like to see it, obviously, but people like offer sheets. But I don't know. What's your take? What do you think the Oil might kind of potentially need the most? They've got basically Skinner at 2.6 next year, and Pickard, whatever you want to pronounce it as, at 1. So between Skinner and Pickard, they're making 3.6 mil. That's
It's
pretty
peanuts.
damn good.
Yeah.
That goaltending duo right there alone went back-to-back Stanley Cups. They've been 3 games from winning combined in 2 seasons, back-to-back Stanley Cup
Mm-hmm.
losses. $3.6 million. Stanley Cup winning goalie, Bobrovsky, 10, pretty sure it's 10 flat. Is it 10
Mm-hmm.
flat? Right? So what's the answer? What's the magic mix? Right? What other goaltenders out there sitting at, 5-6 million that you're just like, oh, let's go get them, whatever. Like this could be the one. Like there's not too many out there. There's not too many teams that are just out there that are willing to move on their good goalies, that are moved to, young goalies or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
not age, not a poor contract, whatever. But I got one.
Wonder if I have
And I
one
got
too.
an
I got
idea of
one.
who I think, just a sneaky little one that I just could think the Oilers could be a trade target for.
I got
Big
one too, but
goaltender.
mhm.
Sorry?
I got one too, but I just don't know if it's the same one.
Big goaltender, still fairly young, made a pretty solid name for himself. Not a great team last year. A lot of goaltending depth in that organization when it comes to some younger players. How about Ukko Pekka from the Buffalo
Mm.
Sabres for the
Mm-hmm.
Oilers to have a look at going after?
Yep.
I'm just saying, he's 6'5", 216,
Big
moves
Tendy.
pretty well, made a lot of really strong games last year and pushed the Sabres to some wins that they probably shouldn't have. Certainly had a few stinkers. That's just the way it is. Last season, 55 games, he was a 3.20 and an 887 save percentage. I'm not saying that those are great numbers, but he's on year 2 of 5 going into next season at a $4.75 million hit. You could add him. Let's say you get rid of either Skinner or Picard, and you drop that down to basically, like $6 million between, two goalies. It's not terrible in today's day and age.
Mm-hmm.
Who was your goalie?
Mine is because I've kind of heard some like rumors about it, and I'm very interested to see how he would play on a better hockey team. We've seen glimpses of him being very good over the last few years. Is John Gibson?
I think
He
the injuries
that's
is
the
what I
only that
believe.
is a thing for sure.
And I
Um,
know the Oilers have been linked to him significantly through the years. So yes, you're very right.
yeah, so like years ago, he was like a proven goaltender. He was really good, a very underrated goaltender for the Ducks. They have Lucas Dostal now. That seems like maybe he could take the reins, and maybe they'll dangle Gibson, see who would go for him. And I know there was like rumors, like maybe him being a little disgruntled, wanting to leave. Whether those were true or not, I a little bit of he's 31 years old now, more on the veteran size of a goaltender. Maybe it's someone who has a strong mental game that can learn the Oilers way and deal with the media when it's time, and he could be your guy, just depending on how much they're willing to, what the package is going to look like too, right? I don't know.
And no, you're right. And I just sitting here thinking, and I couldn't help but wonder, like, do you really want to get rid of Skinner if you're Edmonton? Realistically, like the guy is still so young. He's been to 2 cup finals. Arguably, you can't just sit here and be like, he is the absolute reason that they lost. It's not true. It's
No,
it's significantly not true. He got them to some of the games and winning some of the games that they shouldn't have. He won some of the games that he was supposed to win. And quite frankly, in the last 2 seasons, he has like 20 something playoff wins as a goalie. So it's not that he hasn't done it. Sure, there's
no,
been a few wins from the backups in Edmonton. Jack Campbell took over a few seasons ago when they beat LA. I know Pickard did that same thing last season and helped Skinner come in, and Pickard played the same thing and did that again. So my point being is because he's so cheap, realistically, I don't hate Pickard, but you have such a young goalie in Skinner on a pretty low contract. If you were able to offer Pickard and let's say Arvidsson for John Gibson retained at 25 to 50%, that's not a bad deal for the Ducks. Excuse me.
yeah,
If you want to take that route to get off his contract, the Oilers take on an extra, call it, $3 million or whatever. I don't know. I'd have to do the math on that one, if depending on what the percentage is.
mm-hmm.
And then the Ducks can use their money on Dostal because that's
Yeah,
their number one in the future. So they already
yep,
have their number one. Then they'd have a reliable backup goaltender in Pickard. Then they'd still have a solid top 6 option, or at least whatever top 7 forward, right-handed forward, and that can add a little bit of speed and grit for their game. He didn't
yeah,
fit with the Oilers. I know he's going to be don't know he's going to be traded. It sounds like he's going to be traded.
Hmm.
Both of them seem like a new option. A new team is encouraged. So
Yeah.
could be an option to look forward there. Both of us options goaltending. You think Johnny Gibson from Anaheim? I say the Oilers go a little bit different route.
Hmm.
Buffalo needs to recharge quick. I think that they could be able to offer a little bit going back their way, whether it be younger guys or or offloading a contract or whatever for Ukko Pekka-Luukkonen, the
Hmm.
6'5" bandit. I wanted to move on though to free
Yeah.
agency. We poked around on that
Yeah.
earlier. And as a whole, it's creeping up quickly. It did last year, certainly a little bit quicker because the cup final finished all of, I think, 3 days before it. But give us your take on not just like what the increase in cap means, but just like what teams' perspectives might be moving forward this summer. I mean, is it a season of do we see bridge deals? Are there teams that are saying, hey, I got 7 extra mil. I was pretty close last year. Maybe I just want to give a couple big bridge deals. I'm going to over offer a couple extra players. I'll give you a 2-3 year deal at X. I want you on my team because I really think you can help us. And our window is 2, 3, 4 years, whatever. I need you in this window. I'm going to
Hmm.
overpay you now. Like, there's so many different things to
Yeah.
consider. Maybe teams offload. Maybe they're going to get draft capital. Maybe they want to reload and really, offload to do so, knowing that teams are going to overpay because teams are able to take on more cap space. Give me a breakdown. Like, what's your take on free agency? How you think it's going to shake this season, this summer?
No, I I think you're going to see a lot more bridge deals. Reason for it, yeah, there is a cap increase coming, but there's also more cap increases as well. I'm just trying to bring it up here to see if I can find it. 2025 season, it's going to increase 7.5 million. The year after, it's going to go up 8.5, and the year after that, 9.5. So you're going to see some like
Yeah. So in the next 3 years,
massive
you're
jumps.
over 20 mil in the next 3 years.
So if you look at guys that
Maybe
are like,
four.
I want to take a 3-4 year bridge deal, and then when the 27-28 season comes, and be like, I want to, get my paycheck, and because there's going to be a lot more space for players to sign big money, I think you're going to see a lot more bridge deals this year. Personally, someone like Mitch Marner, him and his fucking greedy father, he's probably going to get a 4-year deal. I just don't know how the hell you can go in there, and I understand that there is that salary increase. I just don't know how you can go in there and be like, I want 14 million. I want more money than Nathan McKinnon or Connor McDavid. You're not better than neither of these players at the end of the day. Yes, they're going to get new deals down the road, but we're talking about at this point in time. I don't personally see it. Like, I think he's going to get 12 or 13, but I don't know. I just think there's going to be, like I said, more bridge deals this year just because of the cap going up significantly with the next 4 years.
Yep. So some of the big ones, again, obviously here, Mitch Marner probably leading the class here. John Tavares also. So a pair of Leafs,
Hmm.
pair of Panthers as well too. Sounds like Bennett might already have something. Shush, shush, nudge, nudge. Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand of the Panthers. I don't know what Brad's going to do. I kind of thought originally that he would just go back to the Bruins. To be honest with you, I feel like a lot has changed in the last couple weeks for him. Just understanding that, realistically, Boston's always going to be home, but just understanding the way that the league actually works now and just the logistics of the league, the way it's run, like he wants to win, and I'm sure he believes like, hey, I got 31 other teams that are going to compete against me now. It's not
Hmm.
like it's been 30 teams basically for his whole career. Just that extra team to deal with, the extra depth player that you lose in the last 3-4 seasons. There's so many different things that go into it. And just a guy like Marchand being at the end of his career, do you think they just say, I just want to win? I will go anywhere. I just want to win another one. I just want to win another one. If you're looking where you're going to do that, why leave?
I
Right.
know.
So he's a big one. Who else do I got here? Bennett, Brock Besser is a big one. Nikolai Ehlers, Patty Kane still hasn't signed. Do you think Patty Kane stays with Detroit? Apparently, the rumor is that he really likes it and likely to do that there. But wouldn't it be wild if he signed in Winnipeg with
I
Jonathan
know.
Taves?
I have that
Kudos
written
on
down.
Jonathan Taves doing the re-signing. That's great news for him. JJ Paterka is an RFA. Evan Bouchard, Matthew Nyes, as everybody knows. I think they get that done, no problem. I don't think there's going to be an offer sheet, to be very honest with you. I don't see it. And if
Nope.
it does happen, then the Leafs are going to match it. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
if someone would be stupid to be like, I'm going to give you 7 at 15 for Matthew Nyes, because
No one's
if
gonna do
that
that.
happens, the Leafs probably don't, and they just take the compensation. But
Yeah.
realistically, I really don't forecast the Leafs losing Nyes. I think they get that locked up, and go from there. Marco Rossi and Mason McTavish. I almost said Craig McTavish, last player in the NHL to ever wear to not wear a helmet. Do you
Huh.
think any of these players like make a big name shake up? Do you think some of these guys go to somewhere wild? Like I keep saying, oh, wild. That's no pun intended on this next comment. I keep saying, and I drill and drill and drill and drill. Some reason, man, Billy Guerin has always
He's a
made big
sneaky
swings.
devil.
He always has something up his sleeve. And now he's got upwards of 20-something million dollars. I
Yeah.
know there's some
Is it
RFAs
Suter
between
and
you and me.
Parise's off the books?
So let me bring this up here really quick now. They currently have 15.786 million in cap space.
And who are the big players
They
need to be
do,
signed? Just Marco
however,
Rossi?
Marco Rossi is an RFA, needs to re-sign. Declan Chisholm needs to re-sign. He's an RFA as well. Other than that, like they got John Merrill, old man Merrill on D-man, 33, left D. Gustav Nyquist, 35 years old. Justin Brazo, 27 years old. Like they basically, once they get Rossi, what do you think he signs at 6.5, maybe 7.5 by 6, maybe 7? I guess I would be
Yeah.
willing to bet Marco Rossi is going to come in at, I think they do a 6 by 7.75. Like that's my guess. I think they do 6 at 7.75, which makes him 46.5 million sheets. Welcome to the big leagues, Marco Rossi. So even if they do it at that number, like I said, though, you're still looking at almost an $8 million player added to that team, right?
Yep.
If you find a way to shake up that roster a little bit, you can get rid of like a couple of the older guys making 4 million, 3.5 million. Couple guys there, you might find a way to make up big names, splash, man.
Minnesota looks good, man. They can make some moves.
And I love that. So, like, even too, there's a couple big names. Like, people are talking San Jose, Chicago. Maybe this is the big year where a big name goes there and says, you know what? This year may suck a little bit, but we need to be stepping and we need to get going.
Yep.
Do you think there's going to be any big splashes? Do you think any team's going to go for it? Like, what if your Toronto Maple Leafs just sit here and say, okay, Marner walks, Tavares walks, and then they go out and make a big trade? Something wild, something crazy. You never really know. But
Yeah.
that would be pretty interesting for the most part. But we're gonna recap that one when it comes down to I guess that would be almost next week now, right? That's next Wednesday, I guess would be July 1st. I think, or something like that along the way. So we're going to do a recap of
Yeah.
new places, new faces, new places trend there and do that. That's always a fun one, just kind of saying, okay, here we go from there. In terms of just kind of latest news as well, I did want to bring up just today, or even yesterday, I should say, I think it was, right? The Zegras trade. You want to
Yeah.
weigh in on that? You want to weigh in on that one there for
Yeah.
Paling, and I believe it was the number 45 overall pick, which is a second round pick,
And a
fairly
fourth.
high second rounder,
Mm-hmm.
about a mid second rounder.
Yep.
Give us your take on that. Just weigh in on that one there.
I like the deal for Philly. I think it kind of gives Zegras a fresh start in a new place, and comfortability is a big thing, especially for a young player to go to another city where he's been playing in Anaheim for the last few years. Biggest thing is he gets to go back. He gets to play with Jamie Drysdale again, reportedly as really close friends. So, like I said, that comfortability thing will be great for him to kind of transition in. He can kind of show him around Philadelphia. Torchy's not there anymore, so I'm sure Torchy would have hated having Seacrest as one of his players because he's very
Hey,
flashy. Um,
Rick Tocchet, the new coach there. He's not gonna let any bullshit go either. He's him and
oh
Mitchkoff and
yeah, Rick Tockett's there.
The Michigans in the practice with Michkov and Zegras aren't gonna go too well.
Yeah, I did forget about that, but I have hopes for him. I think with a young team, I think, like I said, fresh start. Hopefully, he can kind of bounce back. Like he was a decent player again, very flashy, but I think he still has that potential to kind of bring out to be a bit of a star. And hope with a smooth transition, he can find his way back into where he was a couple years ago. So happy for them, and I think for a player that Anaheim had is for Philly to take a bit of a risk. If you look at Devil's Advocate, you look at the other side. I think they got some decent pieces for who Zegras is at this time.
Mhm. And obviously, you're trading for that's 45, right? The
Yep.
second pick is your big piece in the return. You're
Yep.
probably banking on getting a player like Zegras, I would imagine,
Hmm.
probably a player that's not necessarily big enough to get drafted in the first round, or maybe they had an injury, or maybe they just kind of didn't have enough games in, whether it be higher competition or enough games because their schedule only had them playing 20 games
Hmm.
versus 60 games, whatever their developmental leagues shown. Obviously, Zegers went ninth, but I mean, hey, 45 overall these days. Some of these kids have, and I don't mean to mean it in the wrong way. Zegers is incredibly talented, but I mean this in a complimentary way. Some of these kids at 45 have Trevor Zegers skill,
Yep.
right? And some of them too maybe have Trevor Zegers skill with 4 or 5 extra inches, right? Trevor Zegers is only 6 foot, which you and I were looking up at him. But when it comes to today's day and age in sports, unfortunately, it's so quick, but it's so big too. Like these guys, unfortunately, he's 6 foot 185, and he just looks small out there, right?
Hmm.
He doesn't
Hmm.
look a big 185. Like I bet you'd be willing to like. Some of the players that walk around at 185 probably look a little bit bigger than Zegras does, but um, I think it's a big trade for Philly. I do think it adds a little bit of a refresher. It gives their top six a bump, that's for sure.
Yep.
It gives them a little bit of a different look. There's a lot of key talent, man, and there's a lot of good speed in that lineup, man. Owen Tippett's one of the faster players in the league. Travis Konechny, I think, potentially should be their next captain there.
Yep.
They got a couple of young players with Forrester, Couturier.
Mishkov.
Couturier is still there. Solid back end there. Travis Sanheim made 4 Nations.
Hmm.
Drysdale's there, as you pointed out earlier. Like it's
Hmm.
not terrible, right? It really isn't. I question their goaltending. We'll see. Um, Not a bad squad. I'd like to see how they do. Again, 45 is a big number. You just never know what you're going to be quote unquote traded for.
Yep.
So that's always a fun one there. But that comes draft time, which is a whole different conversation to be had, because we're going to hope that,
That's on
we
Friday, I think.
Friday, the date, what's the date? 29th, something like that.
27 or 20. Yeah, 27th maybe or 28th.
Okay, so that's another thing as well too. We can kind of conclude that into the to the post free agency
Hmm.
recap there. Is there anything else in terms of whatever there? I kind of wouldn't mind just kind of breaking down just before we end it here. Just again, like some of the big things that you got to focus in on this year. Like, what are some of the teams going to be thinking? Like, I'd be interested when 3 o'clock or even July 2 comes around. Be interested to see what kind of moves certain teams made to potentially set themselves up in the future.
Hmm.
And by future, we talked about 3 years, $24 million in excess cap.
Hmm.
That's really big, right? But you got to also look at too, like there's a lot of teams out there that don't like spending to the cap. So now you're going to force a lot of teams to spend a lot more money.
Hmm.
And you're not just going to be saying, "Oh, hey, old man Rivers, you know what? Come on over, come on back. You know what? I feel like dishing out a contract." Like you're going to be like, "Hey, if I'm spending the money, I better be rostering a pretty darn good team. So
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see if we start to see, I don't know how I want to do this. Yeah, let's do it this way. If we start to see that top end talent of teams and the bottom end talent of teams really start to kind of mesh a little bit. I'm not saying this season, but certainly next year.
I think you
Or
noticed.
sorry, 27.
I think you started to notice that in the Atlantic this year, like Montreal and Ottawa making a push. Like that's
Yeah.
two more teams in a stacked Atlantic division that is closing that gap.
And now to the Pacific, right? You watch what happened there. LA's still relevant. Edmonton's still relevant. The Vegas Golden Knights are well relevant. And now you go, okay, Calgary's probably going to be relevant again. Vancouver could still be relevant again next year. And
Hmm.
then you got um the Sharks now all of a sudden they're positive and they've got a lot of really good things going on there too. Like there's a lot of good teams. I think the parity of the league is going to be pretty
Hmm.
interesting in the next couple of,
Hmm.
of years here. I'd be interested if we start to see some more like Johnny Gaudreau style signings, like just
Yeah.
random, like, oh, we did not expect that.
Yep.
I would not be shocked if we start to see those, especially now that guys are getting more money. Maybe they can go home closer to their hometown and get paid more money too. It could work out.
Yeah.
There could be their families there. It could be that's where they grew up, whatever. So interesting to see. Any closing thoughts on free agency?
For me, it's I'm gonna be watching Chicago and seeing what they're gonna be doing. The biggest thing is you got this superstar in Connor Bedard. How many years is he gonna go through sitting at the bottom until he's had enough? So I think Kyle Davidson and the team is going to have to really look. And I wouldn't even be surprised if they try and make a splash and overpay Mitch Marner to come to play in Chicago just to bring another big name in because the more he waits, the more years is being wasted on Bedard. And we all know the NHL is a lot better when the United Center's rocking with Chicago. So I'm interested to see what happens on free agency because I would like to think they're going to make a big splash, whether it's Marner or someone else. I think some pieces are going to be coming their way.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see if a guy like Marner would go to um quote
Yeah,
unquote rebuilder.
yeah,
Not to say he wouldn't, and I'm sure he could, and it would be probably a solid fit. But yeah, I mean, again, let's play that out and see where we go from there.
yep,
Interesting, just to say the least. But I'm curious if we don't get some pretty big moves or interesting player movement, especially before the draft. There's always players and teams um, that teams like, excuse me, especially before the draft, and maybe we see some jump.
yeah,
Maybe we know that the Blackhawks were dangling three. Um, I said in my mind, wouldn't it be something if the Oilers were able to keep a reset and go quick themselves? What if they were able to do like a Darnell Nurse and a package plus for number three?
yeah,
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just spitballing here because you
yeah.
you got the guys on defense. You keep that young prospect in the loop that can be there for 6-7 years with McDavid and Draisaitl,
Mm-hmm.
with Bouchard on the back end. I don't know.
You never
I
know.
don't know. That'll
Um,
probably never happen because it's too hard to do these days. But we'll see.
one last thing too. I heard some rumors spurling around about JJ Paterka and the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that'd be cool if they could make something work there.
That'd be an
Building.
interesting fit. I like that.
Yeah, it would. We'll see what happens. Whether it's a trade or, I mean, an offer sheet would be crazy. I don't think
It
Tampa's
would
got the
likely
money,
be an
but
offer sheet if that's the case, considering he's an RFA.
yes, July
So that would
1st. So I
be
wonder if they'll trade him beforehand. If I don't know, we'll see. That's just rumors.
yeah, yeah, interesting, interesting. All right, dude. Well,
Yeah,
another tough one for the boys.
yeah,
That's my third cup
I
loss
feel
now.
ya.
At
Yeah, I
least it
feel ya.
wasn't game 7. It was only game 6 this time.
Yeah,
If that means anything. But hey, you know what? Keep the head held high. This
yeah,
one's tough. I felt last year that we were due for one and we were going to be right back there this year. And
yeah.
this year, as a fan now, man, after getting absolutely, it felt like a sweep. It felt like a
Hmm.
sweep. I don't feel the same next season.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm not saying we're gonna get beat out in the first round. I'm not saying we're gonna get beat out in the second round. I wouldn't be shocked if we lose in like the conference final or something next year. Second
Hmm.
round conference final next year. It gets so hard to win. So
Oh yeah.
tough to lose. little bit sour, still a little pissed off, but you know what? Hey, that's
Is
hockey and that's what we live for. But
exactly.
if there's anything else you want to add in there for that one, we'll
No,
talk
we
in
can
there
wrap her up.
for chime in there, excuse me, after free agency hits the board
Yeah.
and go from there. But other than that, without further ado, folks, again, this has been another edition of the Soft Dump in the Corner podcast presented to you by North Six Sports, a special one as we close out the NHL season, the
Yep.
2025 NHL season. Thank you again for everybody that support us along this season. We always love it. The like supports, the subscriptions, the everything, the TikTok, all that, the YouTube, Facebook,
Website.
website. Yeah, keep reading those articles. We'll be dishing out over the summertime
Yep.
as we transition into draft, as we transition into maybe some NFL, the Blue Jays and MLB, maybe some
Blue
golf. We
Jays
still
went
got
to
lots.
they're
We still got
heating.
lots coming. So tune in
Yep.
there. Thank you again for the season. Where we, as always, looking forward to next season. Without further ado, as again another edition, Soft Dump in the Corner
Sure.
podcast presented to you by North Six Sports. Boom.